So my name is Keya Desai. I'm a technologist and who loves to understand various business contexts and business problems and help our clients solve problems, those problems with technology. I was a bit about myself, I was born and brought up in India. I moved to Australia for further studies. And since then, I've made Australia my home. I came from Australia to this region around, I would say 5 to 6 years ago. Most of the time during this time, I've stayed in Singapore, but I had a brief 1.5 year in Bangkok as well. My background is technology. I started my career long back in Australia as a software engineer. And since then, I've done quite a few different roles in and around technology mainly, and also in terms of talent development and talent management space as well. As Johan mentioned, I'm currently a managing director of technology for Zühlke Asia. And as a part of my role, I look after our technology and consulting strategy and practices across the region. Before I actually deep dive into the topic for today, I believe here there might be quite a few people who don't know Zühlke. So let me share a little bit about us and what we do. We are an innovation service provider, we call ourselves. Innovation is a kind of it's a topic that always been so close to us at Zühlke. Our logo even says that, we empower ideas for our clients. What innovation means for us is basically ability to think outside the box and then coming up with the radical ideas and then be able to implement them so that it can change something for our client and also along the way for world. So we've helped a lot of organizations, big or small, to innovate through technologies. And then that's where we offer our deep, domain as well as technology expertise. So a little bit about our history and some facts on Zühlke. We were founded in 1968. So it's a very old company, more than 50 years. When it started in Switzerland, so that's the birthplace, which is where we have our biggest team as well. We started with the mostly electronics engineering and mechanical engineering work over the years, and then over the year expanded our capabilities into different areas, all the way from software engineering to then data and AI, as well as embedded engineering, DevOps, cloud, etc. As on right now, we are across 10 different countries, and we have 17 different offices. Within those offices, we have around more than 2,000 employees or 2,000 experts, I would say, in the different areas, all the way, supporting, software engineers, backend engineers, architects, enterprise architects, data and AI, data scientists, engineers as well. And we solve a lot of different types of problem for our client and help them in their innovation and being a data-driven journey. It's a private company owned by partners, and we hold quite a bit of certification because we work very on various different industries, including the health and AI, which is highly, health as well as government, which is highly regulated in industries as well. Over the year, Zühlke has worked on various different projects. All the way from hardware engineering to nowadays all the cutting edge technologies, and over those thousands of clients that we worked for, these are all some of the recent clients in this region that we have worked, as well as probably some of them are joint ventures from other countries as well. So that's a little bit about us at Zühlke and about myself. So with that, let's move on to the actual topic. Today, I'm talking about data and AI, which is what Johan mentioned. It's a very hot topic nowadays with media. We've been using a lot of digital products and services over the years. And all those products and services have been generating a huge amount of data over the years. And making sense of that data is AI, which we now currently see it everywhere. Either it's auto-completing our emails or recommending us what to watch next or where to invest next, to name a few. So with all this hype and all this AI around everywhere, in today's economy, I think for a lot of company, it's not, adopting this technology is not just about actually competitive edge anymore. It's actually about keeping up. A lot of companies that we, or our clients that we work for feel that, if they don't adopt these technologies in the near term, they will be wiped out. And the similar way, like how industrial revolution happened, and a lot of company who didn't adopt to those modern manufacturing techniques, they eventually got wiped out. It could happen to them. So we do see a lot of investment into different AI and data initiatives across the industries, which is good. But at the same time, we also do see that there is a huge failure in terms of these AI initiatives and data. So a lot of data and AI initiatives actually don't return, in terms of the investment they're doing. So this is a Gartner statistic, I think maybe a year or so back, that 85% of AI projects fail to deliver. And out of that, 53% actually don't even make it from prototype to production. Regardless of that statistic, we are actually seeing more investment going into AI and data. And there are multiple reasons for it. One of the main reason is obviously a FOMO, fear of missing out. With so much hype around this commoditization of generative AI, ChatGPT and DALI, people do see a lot of excitement surrounding the potential of this technology, which is good. But there's also a lot of hope from investors that these technologies are going to generate a lot of great returns for their investment if they invest in this tech, and it's also contributing to an investment bubble, a VC investment bubble in AI. One of the example is the last month, there was a French startup called Mistral AI, raised 105 million euro in one of the largest seeding round in Europe. They don't even have a working prototype or product right now in the market. So that's definitely one of the example of a lot of things that are happening in this space. Among all, some companies do genuinely have a need to harness the AI-driven decision making. But regardless of all these needs and hype around that, it still fails because people don't think it the right way. I think the main problem is that we shouldn't be conceiving AI as a one-shot wonder project. It's not. Instead, companies should think of AI investment in AI or even in data as an old-fashioned capital investment that you do. In the past, when you actually invest into buying a big expensive machinery for your company, you would think about all different things, not just about the machine itself and what it can produce, but also about the floor space, spare parts, maintenance, how are you going to train staff, what are you going to change in terms of product design. All of this thing has to also happen when you invest into the AI and data initiatives at the large scale. At the end of the day, the idea is good. We all want to utilize this technology and become an AI-powered organization. There are a lot of good examples out there. But what's the right way to become an AI-powered organization is to first become a data-driven first. And that's the only way, because otherwise you're putting a cart before the horse. So in today's probably next 25 minutes or 30 minutes, I want to talk about the key principles and a framework to consider for any company who want to actually start or progress in terms of their data-driven journey. I want to talk about some common challenges that we have encountered with our clients, and also how do you then overcome them as well. So we're talking about data-driven organization, and I think there are a lot of good examples, as I said, are out there. One of the one which everyone is kind of very familiar with is Netflix. Netflix is a great example of data-driven organization. They started using the machine learning back in 2000 for actually recommending movies since then, and before they even actually became big global streaming provider. And now, as on today, if you actually look at it, 80% of their actual streaming time that people spend on those platform is actually traced back to a personalized recommendation the engine gives. That's great achievement for a company to actually utilize AI in that manner. So for any other company, who wants to actually get to that kind of success, at the end of the day, it needs to start with understanding why you want to become a data-driven company first. So most data and AI investment will generate value for a company in 3 different ways. First of all, it will help you make better decisions. Data-driven organization can make better decisions. Why? Because they can analyze data, and then they can derive insight from it, look at the patterns and correlations, and then it can inform their strategy, it can inform their operation. And if you make better decision, at the end of the day, you're going to have a better product and services and higher customer satisfaction and loyalty. One of the practical example is one of the global private bank we work with. So they had this concept of investment recommendation system for their financial advisor. So the financial advisor, we developed this tool for them that can suggest tailored investment opportunity for the individual client that they have. It uses the data and the behavior pattern and what their goals and everything is. Here we did not replace the overall financial advisor, that you will always need human for that. But here the augmenting of human expertise with the AI powered insight is what actually increased the overall performance of a financial advisor, but also client satisfaction as well. So it's an example of how you can make a better decision and how it can benefit your strategy and operations as well. The other important bit, that AI can help or data can help is a productivity improvement. You can analyze the data. You can then define inefficiency, bottleneck areas of improvement. For anything to improve, you first need to be able to measure that. And you cannot measure until you have a quality data for that. So that's where data comes in picture. You have a good quality data, you can then measure it. And because you can measure it, you can improve it. So a lot of data-driven organization can actually improve their overall, return on investment because they are running better operation. Again, example is one of the other major bank we work with. One of the things that they had to do is they had to handle roughly around 1.6 million email trade blotters every month. And sometime when it's a peak, it could reach up to 2.5 million. Which is good, but out of that, 1/3 of them generally have discrepancies. So this is where they had roughly around 225 people staff who manually look at all these discrepancies, either correct them or they go for a clarification to a client. That's a lot of manual work. And here, they tried automation, but the automation can't actually achieve that great result. So this is where we implemented with them the fuzzy logic based solution, which then provided a better solution. And that means they reduced the actual amount of discrepancies to 50%. That means they reduced roughly 100 people who needed to do that and repurpose them on a different things. So that's another, how you can actually help data and AI for productivity improvement. The final one is, you can then unlock a new business model or new revenue streams by leveraging data. Then you can identify those opportunities, develop new products, new services, and basically stay ahead of the competition and maintain the strong market share. Example here is another challenger bank that we worked in UK, and so they were threatened by so they were one of the original challenger bank for a while. They were threatened by a new fintech front runner like Monzo. So they had mobile banking app, which was good, like their client were using it. They wanted to increase their overall customer base with a lot of new generation customers, but at the same time the new front runner like Monzo offer them a better services in terms of mobile banking. They can connect with different bank and provide them more automation in terms of the usual things that they have to do on mobile banking, things like paying bills or budgeting or saving, investing. So what they wanted to do was that incorporate that. So we developed this something called autopilot. It's like autonomous driving. It's an autonomous banking. So it's a kind of different level of automation happens using AI. 0 means no automation, you do everything yourself, versus the level 5, which is where AI can actually make an investment decision on behalf of you, find out what's the right utility partner, and using that ecosystem can switch utility when you need to do. So this is where we use a lot of behavioral data underneath from the different use cases, and then utilize the AI for that. So it's a great opportunity, and it was a great exercise altogether for a company to actually unlock a new revenue stream, I would say, and a new features and products. So with that, it's a few great example on how you can utilize the data. In this slide, I want to talk about how you can be a data-driven company. On a high level, there are pretty much 3 steps for any organization to follow to become a data-driven. There is a why, so communicate the why behind it or know the why behind it, what, and then how. So if I start with why, I think the main bit is that there are, obvious use cases. There is a value in being a data-driven and AI-powered organization, which we mentioned in the last slide. But the main important thing is decision-making has to happen at the management level. You need to have a buy-in and, securing commitment from all the way to C-level. Without that, it's not going to be successful, because overall being a data-driven is a transformation journey. It's a part of transformation, and it requires a lot of dedication, support, resources, and investment all the way from top level. So that's the reason why it's important to have C-level commitment. Then comes the second part, which is actually what you need to do if you actually got the commitment to become one. I think this is where the key suggestion is actually to, first of all, nail or have a very good, well thought out data strategy. As a part of creating a data strategy, you generally start with what is your long-term implication you want as part of your capability that you need to develop to become data-driven strategy. This needs to align with the business strategy as well. And then you identify various investment and resources you will need to do. Eventually, it's an outcome, is a roadmap that you have for different use cases, and then overall project portfolio management process as well. But the main thing with this process that you actually do with creating a data strategy is you involve stakeholders from all the department, because it is a change process. You need an involvement from various different people. You involve them earlier on, and you involve them ongoing using this data strategy as a tool. So that, to me, I think a lot of time it's a really valuable tool. Then comes the how part. So how do you do it? We recommend adopting a use case first approach. What does it mean? That means you need to focus first on identify and then prioritize the most relevant use cases for data and AI that are most relevant and most impactful, basically. Once you have them, implement them in a thin slice way. So the thin slice way, you probably might have heard, but it's a concept of thin slicing, which is where you only build what is necessary to implement this initial use case. But while you do that, you're actually slowly creating the right capability that you want the target state to be at the same time. And by actually creating those small little slices of use cases, you then eventually create the full capability for you to then transform into a data-driven organization. This is a good way because it actually helps you along the way, actually create some momentum within the stakeholder and get the constant buy-in. So it's not a one-shot wonder where you invest and then you didn't get results, so you're gone. It's a use cases that you actually prove it along the way, and then you learn, and then you iterate, and you get the buy-in along the way. So that's why it's useful. So at Zühlke, we've incorporated these 3 steps into a becoming data-driven organization into a framework. So we generally help our clients in different ways. Sometimes we come in for the use cases, sometimes we come in for actually all the way from strategy, but we generally help them, define the whys, which is their vision and what the coalition going to be, what that means data strategy. On the back of data strategy, what's your initial portfolio of use cases looks like, and then implementing those use cases. While you're implementing those use cases, making sure based on your data strategy, you are actually building your organization's capability or foundational capabilities in these 4 areas that we have underneath: your people and competencies, your data and governance, your structures and processes around that, and also the infrastructure and technology that supports all of these use cases, but overall you becoming a better data-driven organization. So all those 4 things are actually then covered as a part of different use cases building. You may have noticed that on the side there is a data maturity assessment. So this is a tool that we actually use it as well a lot of time with our client to then determine the current status of the company on their journey of becoming data-driven organization. So this is where this assessment framework, we have a different dimension, but we actually look at these 4 key areas that I mentioned: people, competencies, data governance, structure and processes, and infrastructure and technology. And we try to then benchmark and then basically advise the data strategy where to start, or what's most best thing to prioritize first. Along the way, when we help our client into their data-driven transformation journey, we use this tool, but at the same time, we implement various methodologies along the way as well, good best practices, some frameworks that you can actually utilize between your why, what, and how implementation of the data-driven strategy. So once we have identified the initial set of project portfolio or use cases for an AI solution, they generally fall into these 5 categories. They could be either a descriptive AI solution. That means it's a kind of solution which just provides you a comprehensive view of what has happened based on the data set that you have. So this is your normal reporting. If you're talking about, let's just say, a hospital who has an ER department, descriptive type of solution for them would be just giving us a data about, okay, what's the current patient, there is a surge in a current patient in ER, then it actually tells you that. So it doesn't actually tell you anything else. So apart from like a very little intelligence, more of actually surfacing or visualizing the data for you. Diagnostic is the next one, which is actually goes one step further. Apart from actually visualizing it, it also tells you why something has happened. So if it's the same, the hospital ER department, then it actually tells you that maybe the surge has happened because there is an outbreak somewhere. Our historical data and other disease management system actually indicates that. It's just a little bit more intelligence than just simple data. Then comes the predictive, which is where the solution can anticipate what's going to happen in the future based on the data set that you have historically available. And then you have prescriptive, which is where kind of AI provides you also what would be the right course of action. So if it's the same hospital ER department, then it actually tells you, okay, now is the time to actually, you're going to get more surge in the next 5 hours or 5 days, and then this is what the staffing situation would look like, or maybe the equipments or other thing that you connect with it. And then the final one, which is actually in the news everywhere nowadays, generative. So generative AI solution can create new content or new data that is similar, not exactly the same. It actually creates new thing based on the input data that they have been trained on. And this could be actually anything from all the way image to text, or even the voice or videos. But regardless of what type of AI solution that you are using, we generally help client navigate through key stages of actually implementing those AI portfolio or AI project. It should go through the life cycle of these 4 stages, starting from all the way from vision and scope. So vision and scope is where you actually basically align everyone in the first towards a common understanding of what the use case is about and what you're going to get out of it. The outcome is generally with a clear vision on what the goals are, what's your proposed approach on a high level is, and then also most important thing, what are the success measures or agreed upon success measures at the end of the day. The second one is evaluate and prototype. So this is where, during this phase, we assess various things like data availability, data quality, what's the technical feasibility. And then the idea is at the end of the day, you would have a functional prototype that confirms the business case. And then you also have an idea about operationalizing it as well. Build and operationalize is a third phase, which is where we actually focus on making in solution robust enough that you can then, the main thing, integrate back to an existing landscape, because without that, it's a prototype that is actually never going to see the light of the day. So here, the goal is to actually create a minimum viable product that is actually ready to deploy. Operate and extend is where then we execute to full deployment and then provide the rollout support, as well as make sure that there's a reliable operation and maintenance for this model as well. Overall, I think the importance bit is actually a systematic process. If you follow this systematic process, it helps you mitigate the risk and make sure that you actually, final solution somehow delivers the actual maximum value that you have envisioned at the start of the day. With those 4 steps, it would help you mitigate a lot of risk to make sure that the final solution delivers maximum return on investment. But there are some equally important factors which is outside of these 4 steps that that I mentioned that would hinder basically the success of all the data in your project. So I want to quickly talk to you about the 5 most common mistakes that we have seen organization make, and then how do you overcome them so that your AI investment is actually returning the value you envision. First one is, I already mentioned at the start of session, the hype around AI actually is so strong that it's very easy to get caught up in it. But that's the problem. You have decided to become an AI powered organization. Great. You start investing money on it because it requires investment. but you forgot to ask the main pivotal question: what business problem are you trying to solve here? You need to look at, first your business process and form the question. Well, if you're going to improve this decision by X%, what does it have an effect on the bottom line? How do I leverage AI in terms this delivery speed? So you need to be, very, very clear on the problem statement or a use case. And then you go ahead and do the thin slice approach to then develop the idea and then deliver it as well and implement it back. The other one, second mistake that we see commonly is that most organization doesn't understand that it's a change. It's a huge change. Just because one day the executives decided that we want from tomorrow onwards we're going to be data-driven company, it doesn't mean it will happen. To be truly data-driven, I think the first one is you need to trust data. And you need to use data to make decision. That means you have to let go of a gut feeling. And that requires an intentional change management. The larger the organization, more complex the organization, harder it is. And that means you need to actually at every level understand the value and how you're going to treat data. It starts from a data first mindset. That means it involves, you need to start capturing quality data. And you need to constantly think about quality of data from the start. The minute you get incorrect decision based from the data, you can't just jump up and say that that's it, done. It doesn't work. You need to actually look at it, what's wrong with the data and how we can improve it along the way, or where is the problem with the infrastructure or anything. Your decision making or your AI is as good as your data. So if it's not giving you a right result, then it's most likely the data that has a bias, or maybe it's not complete, or the quality is not good. So these are all the long-term changes, and it requires a lot of time and support and commitment on a long term. So that's something a lot of companies don't realize. The third one, which we kind of always see a lot, is doing too much too soon. Just because you wanted to do something, that doesn't mean you can do it right away. Every organization has appetite in terms of how much they can take on. There are too many variables to consider on top of just what your use case is. There are people, there are skills, processes, structure, what's the governance look like, technology, and then overall infrastructure. There's a lot of things that you need to look into it. So the one thing that helps is a maturity assessment that I mentioned before. A lot of time, you can either do it yourself, or you can actually get the partner like Zühlke to actually help you benchmark where you are in terms of your actual maturity assessment. We look at different areas, and then from there you can then have an informed decision about the gaps that you have and the roadmap that needs to look like. You need to probably most likely, if you haven't never done this before, to actually put some effort into solid foundation before you actually start implementing really generative or diagnostic kind of AI solutions. The other common mistake that probably one of the most common is that the minute organization decides that they want to be an AI powered or data-driven organization, they go on a hiring spree. So they get the best data scientists, they get the best data engineers, greatest tools and technologies, good. But they haven't thought about it at all, that how are you going to reorganize yourself to support, to become this data-driven organization? Who's going to drive the AI initiatives or the whole transformation? Who's going to be responsible for building the capabilities? So for us, you need to think about it at the same time when you actually embark on the journey. For a lot of very complex, organizations who are at the early stages of this transformation, we've seen that dual ownership model really works well. That means you would have center of excellence team, which actually is a core central team that takes care of core AI responsibilities. But then you have a satellite COEs or satellite center of excellence that are embedded into the business unit, and they take care of things which requires an economy of scale. So things like trainings, AI process libraries, or cataloging the data that is relevant to their business unit, various maturity model. Those are the things the satellite COEs can do, and they can help you basically implement or when, how, and where you're going to introduce AI in the business unit. So having those two level of a partnership really works well to drive the momentum and get the right sponsorship from the start. The final one that we see a lot that is happening lack of experiment, or sometimes just failure to experiment. No one really knows what's the best idea is going to be, which one's going to be your $1 million idea and it's going to change your future. What really counts is, you think big, but you start small and then fail fast. Do as many experiments you need to do, validate your hypothesis and learn from the failure. And then you learn that, learnings into actually refine the next steps and further improve yourself. This is exactly how we see that a lot of elite tech companies have done it in the world. Taking example of a Google, Apple, Amazon, Netflix. Google, very elite technology company. I mean, they got that technology sorted, but yet still, as on today, they have a 96% of failure rate for a proposed changes on their model. So that's okay, and that's something you need to happen as a part of your innovation. So with that, despite the hype, the rise in investment as well as in failure, like a lot of other folks in this industry, I still think that AI is not a fad. It's not a fad. It is going to be a real force that's going to shape the future of our technology. It has a potential to transform pretty much every industry in a different degrees, I would say. It could improve efficiency, it could improve productivity for any company. It's been estimated, one of the HBR article, this is also 2019, so things have changed, that by 2030, data and AI will be responsible for generating 13 trillion US dollar worldwide. And this is, with ChatGPT and all, I think it's even more. So overall, I think it's a right time for a company to embark on a journey to become a data-driven and then AI-powered organization in the future. It is, embracing data and analytics is crucial if you really want to actually, navigate successfully in the complex business world that you have today. With that, I come to an end of my sharing. We have a lot of research at Zühlke and resources on our website that goes into a lot of details in terms of various industries and use cases in the industries. Here are a couple of the examples about insurance industry and how companies or insurance can become a data-driven, as well as in a sustainability industry as well. But there's a lot more out on our website. I recommend you to check it out as well. And with that, thanks for listening. We can move into question and answer. Let me stop sharing first.
So which are the industries that are not benefiting from AI actually?
Which industries are not going to be benefit? Okay, personally, I think, if sooner or later, as more capabilities of AI gets developed, it could be like, now that we have a momentum in here, these technologies are not new. They keep developing, but now with the momentum, it's going to even be more. Pretty much every industry eventually is going to get touched. The only industry I would probably say not going to touch majorly in the upcoming years that fast is the one where we have a lot of manual work, construction industries or maintenance, where you actually need people to do, physical work. Again, they're going to be touched by it, where there is an automation required or automation possible. But a lot of, still there will be some industries like cleaning industry or construction, manufacturing, a bit more of a manufacturing where you need a manual labor. I think those would be the one which I don't think so. If a year or 2 year down that, before, if you ask, we would have said creative industries, but that's not true with ChatGPT anymore. I think, with generative AI, creative industries are going to change as well and going to get disrupted.
See, okay. But how about which are like where the money is going to be made from an investment perspective for you?
Where the money is going to be made. I mean, right now, there's a lot of hype in AI. So a lot of, anything which has a .ai as a, the thing, like, easy to, get funding right now. I mean, okay, so to me, like, in a lot of, currently, a lot of investment, different industries as the year goes and more development comes in, different industries getting disrupted in a different areas. So I would definitely see banking, insurance and health industries are actually where we see a lot of investment already happening, because there are big disruptors out there. The companies like, big banks like DBS, who actually have been in the journey long enough that they actually have disrupted other banks to then, also follow them as well. So there's a lot of traction happening. So whenever you have actually a big player like that, who are a first, runners in terms of actually going ahead and proving that there is a case for it, the disruption is going to get followed faster. That's what I will think. Yeah, but eventually everything would be eventually turn, for better. We will have somewhat better use of AI across every industry.
Yeah, I hear you. But from an investor perspective, because we're an investment company.
Yeah.
So, how long do you think, or do you think we can see like a return on investment if we start investing now? Because I mean, there are a lot of articles coming out nowadays that says that AI is actually very futuristic. So
yes,
it's going to be dead soon. We're looking at maybe 5-7 years ahead.
Yes.
So putting in money at this stage, is it wise for investors?
Good question. I mean, okay, so it is a good technology. AI is, I think if you depending on who you ask, you will get a different question. So there is a narrow AI, and then there's a generic AI. We are years for general AI, generic AI is not going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years. So like, things are not going to automatically, make decisions or work together. It's not far, but it is a little bit far away. So where the AI is going to be useful is a narrow AI. So this is where you have a clear use case of how it's going to, the three different things that I mentioned. Either it's helping company actually make a better decision, either it's helping companies, sell new products and services based on very, very narrow use case that you already have. My recommendation for investors is, yes, I think it's a good, AI is not a fad. So you can invest in it. It's not like, a few years down the track, it's going to go. There is a lot of hype around that. So if you are investing in it, like in today's, sharing that I have, look underneath exactly, is it really a worth investing? Is it actually a real use case of AI? How is the organization really run? Are they prepared in the future to actually then utilize and learn from their mistake and then change it along the way as well? Because things are going to change. I think the biggest thing is regulation itself. EU AI Act is going to change a lot of games in there, and most other countries will follow that regulation as well. So before you invest, you actually know, okay, what's a 5-year journey? If the regulation changes, still a valid use case or not? Is it really a worth? Is it just an automation, or is it actually an AI? And then most likely, if it is actually too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. Yes.
Interesting theory. So based on your experience, what's the biggest difference that sets apart a successful and an unsuccessful client that you have worked with in the AI space?
Unsuccessful client. Okay. I think a lot of time, it depends on the journey, like how quickly they get disrupted. Is a lot of companies that we work for. We work with startups, but we also work with a lot of mid or large organization as well. So depending on the complexity and also their current maturity, really decides how quickly they can move. What we have seen for a larger organization success is where you actually have a good leadership in place. Your leader, you need to have a, I would say, courageous leader to lead this transformation. If you don't have a courageous leader all the way, a lot of time things just won't, either not get the momentum at all, or it will get the momentum and then, it'll just dissolve. This is a, being a data-driven is a transformation for a lot of companies. And for that, I think they need a C-level commitment, and they need a courageous leader a lot of time who can, DBS is an example. Yeah, Piyush Gupta, who is actually a CEO, a techie kind of person. Yeah, and they need to know technology, and they need to know what they can do and get the value out of it.
I see. There are a lot of talks that AI is the next industrial revolution. Yeah. Or is this actually what the most prefer to call it?
Is that most preferred to call this, is it?
Yeah, is it really the next industrial revolution, or is it just talks only?
I mean, okay, so the AI itself is actually, one of the thing out of all the different things. A lot of within the, if you actually unpack AI, there's a lot of, technologies behind it. Some technologies are actually not new anymore. They've been, operationalized, and they've been used in industry for a while. Some new technologies are keep coming in. So I would not say AI is just one thing. I think there's a lot of suite of things, and there are some things that are going to be successful and change the way we do things, and some things are going to be just, fizzle it out, and we will not find the proper use case for it. Right now, generative AI itself is at the peak of the hype cycle, going towards the dissolution of the slump. Eventually it will go into that, but we will then figure out a right way to actually and manage our expectation correctly. But to me, like, I still believe it's not a fad. It is a real thing. It's going to change the way we do things.
Thank you. So we are actually taking 2 questions from the audience. So let me read them out. The first one being, is the Hong Kong or East Asia data center infrastructure ready for the move to AI?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, Hong Kong is a specific one. So Hong Kong is where we are currently in we are new to the still region. We've been Singapore is our longest running, like 6 years. We've been in Asia, and Hong Kong is our newest office. We work with currently a lot of different clients in there. Majority of a different clients into the infrastructure that we are providing is. So your question is if it's actually going to be successful or not, yeah? Is that what the question from the audience is?
The question is the data center infrastructure in these 2 areas, Hong Kong and East Asia, ready to move to AI?
Move to AI. Okay, Hong Kong is a different story altogether, but I would say it's an improvement. It's a continuous effort. Is it ready to move to AI? Yes, sooner or later. There is a lot of involvement. There is a lot of a government push as well as everywhere else. The buy-in that it needs to happen, and I think public and private sector together they would actually work together to make it happen. Is it ready right now? Let's see, in a different level of maturity, but it will eventually happen. But for us, in a Hong Kong sector, we work with a few of the client. They are ready to move on and implement in a different level of maturity, I would say.
Okay, so it's a mix right now. So
yeah,
we will have
it's in a journey. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we have another question here by our audience. It says, could access to AI services in the cloud become risky as a result of tech sanctions?
Taxations.
Tech sanctions.
Tech sanctions. Oh. Okay, so the cloud is a again not just for AI. I think for a lot of things, cloud is an interesting topic, because a lot of time, depending on the type of organization, the regulation, and the context that you are in, making sure that you are choosing the right cloud provider. Is it either is a public cloud, private, or is a hybrid, especially if it's in a government, and which data center that your data lives is going to be important going forward. More and more this kind of situation comes in, which is where Europe AI Act, that doesn't just mandate the data sitting in Europe. It actually, any application use cases that actually come from anywhere else, but if they are getting introduced into Europe market, that law applies to them. So yes, you're probably all the way from use cases to then your infrastructure, which is your cloud, and where your data sit, you need to think about it. And that's why I think one of the more important thing as part of that data strategy, what we recommend is having a proper governance plan that includes the regulation and the future regulation that could actually take into effect as well.
Good. Okay, wow, more questions coming in actually. I think everybody's very interested to discuss this better. So the next question goes and says that there's going to be a big requirement for GPU-based data centers. This does not seem to be happening, and there's a big issue with green energy that is not being addressed in Hong Kong. This could be a barrier to enabling adoption. Oh, okay, I think this person is trying to share his view actually. Do you have any?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, no, that's right. Like, no, I think a lot of focus into sustainability and green clouds, which is actually a very important topic. So I agree with that. I think there is a lot of focus on it, and we don't know. More and more companies are asking this question, and the majority of the all cloud provider needs to eventually, consider that as well. So, which is what they're a lot of traction in that area.
Okay, we'll end off with one last question from Johan, because he's hidden behind the cameras now. So he asked, comparing different geographies, especially in the US and China, where US is ahead, and where is US ahead and where is China ahead?
Oh, it's very hard question, yeah. Because to me, like, I actually see innovation happening on both market very much. It's a different economy. It's a different way the innovation happens with the different players in the market. You have one side Ping An, Alibaba, and they've actually, you know, drove a lot of innovation in the sector. Ping An is actually sitting in front of, like, you know, the whole ecosystem of data, how they've actually developed that to be is a cutting edge. But at the same time, you know, America and Europe is actually driving a different angle as well. So I equally see that the innovation is going to happen in both places, and probably. The way to do about is it different, how company operates and how they actually work together. But yeah, to me, like, you know, it's hard question to answer. I'm not sure if I can say that, you know, one country over another would be, like, you know, ecosystem more successful. I think the other bit is also with more and more use cases coming up, you know, with AI. While that media attention is happening, I think the regulation also going to play a big part in terms of how successful one ecosystem is going to be with other on innovation, because, you know, like EU AI Act and Data Act was the first one. I don't think so. It's very comprehensive, and I think a lot of other government is going to follow the suit. So that changes, you know, it's not a wild wide west anymore, or maybe in the future, and that means the innovation has to happen in more, you know, a proper manner, and that might change actually which way is going to be more successful.
Okay, let's end off with one big and tough question. So what is the biggest risk in AI, with AI, sorry?
What's the biggest risk?
Yes.
Well, currently, I think a lot of different things. You know, first of all, a lot has been talked about the transparency of this model. We are now, you know, started using the large language model, which are which are trained on a massive open data. So and you don't know what's going on in there. So using that, you know, is a whole another question altogether. So the whole concept of explainable AI, that means you need to have a different tools and everything set up correctly so that it explains what model is making decisions on. Right now, a lot of big large language models are black boxes. So that's one. And I think the second one is actually the data that it trains on. If that is biased, it's going to inherently create bias. So again, you know, with those wild west, where actually these large language models are actually getting data from everywhere, and that's also another risk. You know, what data they are getting trained on. If you can't control that, you don't know what the future of these large language models is.
I see, but from the company who is actually using AI, from their perspective, what do you think is the risk that they have to, you know, be prepared for?
Okay, company on the adoption of the AI. First of all, again, you know, the same thing applies to them. You know, regulation, making sure that you have a governance in place. So that means you know your data, where it's coming from. A lot of companies now, you know, who want to utilize generative AI, large language model, what they've done is, rather than actually, you know, utilizing the model itself, they actually fine tune the model on the data sets that they control. So this changes the way they can actually do, and the truth they will get. So that applies to, you know, they need to be aware of actually what data they're actually getting trained on, and what is it that is happening under their model. And so that stays again, but a lot of them, then I think it's also an adoption. You know, you have everything right, but at the end of the day, AI use case needs to actually make it back and getting adopted in your company. So for a lot of traditional company who's in their journey to just become or getting transformed, they need to first solve these basic foundational problems, I think.
Thank you so much, Keya, for your time. And I don't think we have any more questions, so we'll wrap it up here since we are also approaching 6. So we also want like to thank everybody who came online with and joined us for this session for today. Hope to see you next month for our next Venture session. And once again, thank you so much, Keya, on behalf of Venturous Group and also Johan.
Thank you, Dali. Thank you, Johan. Thanks for your opportunity.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.